What's going on, everybody? In today's video, we are checking out an interview, a two-part interview with Neil from Rush. Not going to say his last name because everybody's going to be like, Peart? Peart? Is it Neil Peart? I don't care. It's Neil Peart. Just stop it already. I shouldn't be like that. Everybody looks at my name and nearly nobody says it right. So you can see it and you'll probably start dogging me about it. Even though it's completely phonetic, you look at it and say it how it looks, how it's, phoneticism, right? Bringing back that word, phoneticism. If you're new to the channel, you don't know what I'm talking about, but I've been saying it for a while. Anyways, Neil Peart? I don't know. I don't know, but that's what we're checking out. It's an interview, a two-part interview. I believe it's from 2014. This is part one, motorcycles and writing. This was requested because I've been doing all the interviews. Really loving digging into the behind-the-scenes stuff. It's pretty cool. Love it. Getting to know these people behind the music is making me appreciate the music even more. So it's pretty great. It's early. I got my first cup of coffee right here. So that's what's going on. If you're new here, please subscribe. Check out my videos, all kinds of videos. I got reaction videos, 9 a.m., 4 p.m. I do one with my wife every day. I got bass play-alongs, live performances of bands, musician tips, all kinds of videos. Definitely check it out. In the description below, Amazon affiliate links for all things Rush. I got lots of other links, lots of information in the description. Definitely check it out. All right, let's do this. Neil, interview. Let's get smart. Bam. CBC Music.
I guess we wanted to start by talking about you have yet another new book about motorcycles, about traveling, about being on the road, about
snow.
Everything.
Oh,
A lot of snow in there too.
Yeah. How do you find so much time to be able to? You not only have this exhausting touring schedule, then you ride between shows. I guess first, when did you start riding between shows? Sounds like an arrangement that is perfect for you.
Yeah, it actually evolved from, I used to carry a bicycle on the tour bus in the 80s, and then days off I would get out and ride around the countryside, and show days I would ride around the city and to the show, and it became such a nice bit of independence and nature and being out with other humans outside of the cage, what touring life can absolutely be, and very alienating for a lot of people, where this got me out in the world every day. And then in the 90s I started getting interested in motorcycling and did some adventure travel around the Canadian Arctic and down to Mexico, and started to think, well, I wonder if this would work for business travel, and can see, well, if I had a bus, I could sleep on the bus and keep the bikes in the trailer and ride off on days off between shows and then show up for the next show. So we tried it that tour, and it not only worked, it was wonderful. The freedom to explore that I suddenly had.
What was the first tour to do?
And Test for Echo in the
Okay.
95, 96, 96, 97.
So it's a while then you've had this arrangement.
Yeah. All that every tour since then, and I've been able to do it all around Europe, South America. Even we had a South American leg a few years back, and I saw 4 days off between Brazil and Buenos Aires. And with my writing partner, said, could we do it? And once I found out it could be done, it had to be done.
Oh, yeah.
So, but it was so nerve-wracking because there was no bus and trailer or backup bike then. It was just the two of us on our bikes, and we had to get there. And in southern Brazil, we got hopelessly lost. And, no one speaks English for 100 miles. And just by the help of other people, though, as I found traveling everywhere in the world, in Africa and Mexico, when you're in trouble, people will help. And we got out of that, we made it to the show and everything, but it was so nerve-wracking because there's a huge responsibility when 10,000 people are waiting for you to show up for work, right? For most people, if you're a few minutes late for work, no big deal.
Right.
But in a case like that, I feel such a sense of demanding.
You mean you're not
urgency
Axl Rose?
to get there on a
Oh
show
my
day.
God.
The first tour when I started doing it, I told my writing partner, if we're less than an hour early, we're late.
Now it's such a you have a bus, you have a trailer, you have
Like
a spare bike, you have a rider
Like it.
to ride with you. It's a lot of setup to do this. But how important is it? Because it's a major, is it a decompression thing after a show or before a show to just get on that bike?
The independence, the same thing that appealed to me with the bicycle. The very first time that I was able to ride a bicycle between two cities, and I think it was like a city in maybe Charlotte and Greensboro in the Carolinas, it was 100 miles apart. And 100 miles is a good distance to do in a day on a bicycle.
On a bicycle,
Yeah.
Jesus.
But when I was left behind that day and the bus and the rest of the band and everybody else went ahead and I was there by myself, it was such a great feeling. And riding by myself, it was up to me. That was long before the days of cell phones, this is in the 80s. Right. And learning how to change a flat tire and do the repairs along the way, and that sense of independence and apartness from the machine that touring can become.
Well, it's funny, a lot of bands see that moment where they're able to fly between shows as like, that's the pinnacle moment to reach. And as soon as you got to that moment, you're like, no, I want to slug it out of this bus.
And I hate it that they call flyover country, like the center U.S., right? There's New York and there's L.A. and the flyover country. No. I want to fly over L.A., ride across the country, and fly over New York.
I guess there's a romantic idea of motorcycles.
Yeah, that's great.
And there's a romantic idea of musicians. And there's always seems to be a tie-in between musicians and motorcycles. A lot of famous musicians really, I guess, enjoy motorcycles. There's something about the thrill of it. Like, do you see a tie-in at all? Like, I read that you don't listen to music at all.
Do you
when
see
you
a
do
tie-in?
ride,
No.
but yet music
He said a tie-in.
plays
It plays inevitably in my head.
So does that act of riding then inform your music at all, or lyrics or anything?
I think it's the act of traveling, honestly.
Right.
And the motorcycle, there's a beautiful book called The Perfect Vehicle of Melinda McPherson. And that kind of describes it for me. I liked bicycling for many years and still definitely value the bicycle as an excellent mode of transport, especially in cities. But when I suddenly had the greater scope of being able to travel, and I choose the very smallest roads when I travel, and I honestly, musicians might pose with motorcycles, but I don't know anybody else that tours that way.
Damn.
But I choose the very smallest roads and the very smallest towns and try to stay in the small towns, and I only go to cities to play, really.
A term I've never heard before, shunpiking.
Aha.
You're in your book. I'm like,
Never heard
and that
that.
is the act of finding the smallest roads.
Avoiding turnpikes, and that's what it comes from, and it's an ancient word as it happens from like in the 1500s. Pikes were put across roads to protect the villages from highwaymen and night travelers, and then toll roads were invented at the same time 500 years ago, and the pike had to be turned, so you paid your toll and they turned the pike. So shunpikers avoided toll roads. And in modern times, you avoid interstates or motorways or autoroutes or whatever in favor of the smallest roads. And now with GPS technology, it's so wonderful because I can go to the map of whatever state I'm in or whatever province and pick the tiniest little roads and put them on the GPS. And it may not be 100% reliable because they're the smallest roads.
Right.
And we call them the mystery roads because sometimes the GPS doesn't even find that road. And the next day it may be improvising as much as we are, but that's a beautiful part of traveling too, is the improvisational aspect of it, the adaptation. To make a good traveler, you better be ready to adapt to any old thing in terms of weather or mechanical breakdown or time sensitivity or traffic, as simple as that. You know, traffic has changed my plans lots of times too.
Now, a lot of things you write about are the encounters between, you have the big shows and that's what everybody thinks is, this is what everybody wants to know about, but you write a lot about the encounters between shows, about with just, I guess, getting away from that tour, getting into the everyday life, going to diners and...
It so keeps me rooted. There's not a single day goes by that I don't have a conversation with somebody in a gas station or somebody at a diner or the motel, and just regular human-to-human interaction. And that's what I was saying about the bubble that touring can sometimes be, and when everybody looks at you a certain way and talks at you a certain way, it can be alienating and for me very uncomfortable. And so that's my professional milieu, fine, but I don't have to live in that bubble, and that's the greatest reward. I was saying before, it's not about the motorcycling necessarily or the scenery or the landscapes, it's about the mental state of getting away from that and thinking about what I'm traveling through and other people's lives. That's what I love being in tune with every day, and I drive past people working in the fields and think about them, and I drive past people going about their jobs and going about their lives, and kids at school, and this whole life's rich pageant, right, that's going around us all the time. When you live in a bubble, it's hard to stay in touch with that, and that's the world, especially as a writer. You need to stay in touch with, right, other people's lives, or the essence of what I want to do in sharing won't be possible because you're writing from some ivory tower to people whose lives you don't even have the slightest notion of. Right? So that would be a tremendous handicap as a writer.
And I guess it gives you like a sense of anonymity as well, as opposed to private jet to guy on a bike.
Yeah, I mean, you can protect your privacy in those ways. That's a good analogy. Is that, inevitably, one of the hardest lessons we learned along the way. Fortunately, we became popular fairly gradually, so we could adapt to it and help each other adapt to it. But yeah, there's the first time you ever have to hire security for your dressing room door. It's like, what? For the first few years, our dressing room door was open to anyone who ever wanted to come in. Chances, happens that nobody did. So that was the reality. And then suddenly when things change, and one of our live albums around that time, I wrote a little note in it, we're sorry for any friends that we're out of touch with and all that. And just remember, we didn't change, everybody else did. And that's what it seems like to you at the time. So yeah, you can put up, in the song Limelight, one can put up barriers to keep oneself intact, or you can jump right out of that. And it just occurred to me that those are the two choices, right? You can either put up barriers around you or get out of that circle, because people don't expect to see me. And there are many times I've been around someplace and somebody with a Rush t-shirt on, and will just not notice me because I'm some guy at a gas station, some guy sitting behind. They're not expecting to see me there.
Right.
So I always love those moments when I realize that I've achieved that independence. And I just want to be that guy. I like having conversations with people on an everyday basis. I don't want them looking at me like some alien being.
It seems like you're a man of extremes. Like, you don't just drum. You drum on one of the largest kits there is. You don't just ride motorcycles. You ride 50,000 miles.
I'm extremist.
Even when you describe your appetite for reading too, it seems like a voracious appetite for reading. Like, I guess is that what got you where you are as a drummer even?
I would expect that it all comes down to a kind of restlessness, because when people talk about boredom, for example, I can honestly say I've never been bored for a second in my life, but I've always found another way not to be. And like, if I have to go to a medical appointment, something, I bring a book with me, so that waiting is not going to be a hardship. But the early days of touring, when all that dead time was hanging on me, reading, portable, useful, nurturing, all that stuff. So I think I combat, you learn to adapt to your own personality, and the extremes do come in there too. Yeah, I wanted to read every book ever written. Drumming-wise, my determination was more important than talent early on. I think for most things you do have to have a bit of a knack, but I had to work so hard to learn so many things, but I was relentless in terms of determination. And with traveling, when I've got a day, I'm tempted by what's the most excellent thing I can do, which might be way too far, way too long, but I'm going to go for that because it's the most excellent thing I can do. And with writing, it just seems unstinting in the same way, because I just kind of know when I've done my best on it, and maybe an editor can help make it better, and maybe somebody else could have written it better, but I have a good built-in sense of this is the best I can do.
Cool. Amazing. Yeah, this guy is, he's amazing. Yeah, he's pretty cool. Yeah, I dig all the travel talk. I like to travel, I like to drive around. I like to do a lot of the things that he's talking about in terms of like taking the smallest road and like getting lost even in a way, you're never really lost because of, you got your phone and GPS and all that kind of thing. But, I understand all that kind of thing. It's super cool. Yeah, I think it's great. And he's, obviously just very down to earth, very humble. I think, that whole biking when, you could be taking planes and you're just like riding a bicycle or motorcycle or whatever. I think that's amazing. I think that's really cool. Also, that whole thing of like living in a bubble, I'm like, oh man, that's like, it feels like the path to everybody in their bubble is moving faster and faster and faster and faster every day. Every day. I mean, this was from 2014. It's like now people are way more in their bubbles. And there's like individual bubbles, and then there's group bubbles, tribe bubbles, etc. All that kind of thing. And it's like not good. It's really not good. Same as he's saying. You have to be able to interact with everybody and all kinds of people in a way that is not hostile. In a way where, like it's humane. And I don't think people don't, not only do people not everybody, right? Obviously, but many people, not only do they not do it anymore, they don't want to. And that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing. The fact that you don't want to is bad. That's super bad. That's not good for people. So very interesting. I'm definitely looking forward to part two, 40 years of Rush, coming up soon. If you're new here, thanks for watching. If you're new here, please subscribe. Check out my videos, all kinds of videos, reaction videos, bass videos, musician videos, lots of videos. Check it out. In the description, lots of stuff going on down there. Links, information. Check it out. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.